I think the last matchup, in my opinion, is like the most even. I think
Yeah.
I have questions, of course, about both of these teams, the Minnesota ROKKR and Gentlemates or LAG, and I said it when we did the power rankings. I think LAG is a lot better than their record would indicate. They are 0-4. So if you're looking at the standings, you're thinking LAG and the Vegas Falcons are neck and neck for the worst teams in the CDL. I don't feel that way. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm overinflating, or maybe I'm overestimating what they think, or what they are. But I think LAG is a good team that has just not gotten into form yet. They're still kind of developing the chemistry. And I've been impressed by some of the things they've done, but they've been kind of sloppy and they've lost matches because of it. Minnesota, on the other hand, has a better record. I think they're 2-2. They've looked good at times. They've looked not so good at times. And I don't think that they're discernibly better than LAG, which I think makes it a really interesting matchup. I'm going to go with LAG. I feel very good about them in terms of their upward potential, but they have to show it. Eventually, they have to start winning matches, or they're going to create this hole that's going to be very hard to get out of, even with all of the talent they have. Who do you have here, Minnesota or LAG?
Yeah, this was one I kind of just in my mind. I was thinking I'm gonna pick whoever you don't pick, so we're not all chalk in the first round of the minor because that's lame. Um, and I think that speaks volumes too to just what you were saying at the start of this section. Like that, this is probably the closest match on paper, just in terms of where each team is or could be. I don't know if I really worded that the
I
way I wanted
The
to,
way I
or
would word it is like both of these teams, their potential is not nearly as high as what we think Phase, Optics, C9 are.
well,
So
sure.
and like the gap between the teams they're playing seem to be wider. I think like Minnesota, we don't like. I have absolutely no idea where their ceiling is. LAG, I have an idea, considering we saw the 3/4 of them win a world championship, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure exactly. I would just think it's like the gap between them. But yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just that was the only way I could think of it.
No, that's fine. But I basically said there that this is the closest one on paper when I've been saying that for Vancouver and Cloud9 and even Miami and FaZe. So that's not really the right way I wanted to express it. But I do think this matchup, like either team realistically could win, and it would be a case of like we haven't seen that out of this Gentlemate squad yet. They are winless at this point. But this is a good matchup for them to get over the hump if they're going to. At the same time, this is a matchup where probably most people are going to be favoring Gentlemates. If I had to guess, I mean, it might not be like crazy lopsided in terms of who's favored, but just based on the pedigree and the championship caliber roster that the majority of Gentlemates has there, um, versus just the group of guys on Minnesota. Like a lot of people, if you say you're picking Gentlemates, I'm not going to be surprised. But we've actually seen Minnesota win matches.
Yeah.
We've seen them be competitive against LAT in individual maps, even though they weren't able to win that series. Um, so this could be one that I see goes either way. I'll pick Minnesota again for the sake of picking something different. But I think you can make a strong case for either team to win this match. It's going to be again like Gentlemates is in the position similar to FaZe, where it's like, how did they use this holiday break? Were they able to hit a little bit of a reset, get some good practice in, and um, try and turn things around, or is it just going to be more of the same of what we saw? And then, how will Minnesota be able to capitalize on that? I think at the same time, too, we've obviously talked about Hacienda across multiple um, episodes now. And since it was announced that it's entering the map pool, but just to reiterate that really for all the teams, like that throws something into uh the way series are going to be played and whatnot. Obviously, the CDL logic behind removing rewind for Hacienda came because rewind was the most vetoed. At least that's what we reportedly heard. So it might not have a huge impact if it's Hacienda is joining a map that was heavily vetoed, and um if Hacienda itself is vetoed. But it is going to be interesting. You could have a team like Gentlemates who started the season winless, and they could be looking for, maybe something like a lifeline or something new to try. And it could be like, hey, maybe we were struggling on some of these other maps. Let's just try Hacienda because it can't go any worse than what it's gone for so far, right? So, um, something to keep in mind on and there in general for this minor is just it'll be our first real taste of Hacienda gameplay in the CDL across all three modes. Will be interesting to see from a control perspective how much Hacienda is played, or if we just continue to see vault, vault, vault. But yeah, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit there, but I was thinking about it just because Gentlemates is in that position here where they're winless. They have they could be a team that's like, yeah, we want to try something new here, and that opportunity is right in front of them with a new map like Hacienda. So overall for this match, though, yeah, I definitely think you can make a case for either team. I'll go with Minnesota here. Hopefully I get to see a vintage Nero or Geo Superstar Slayer performance, but we'll see what we get.
Well, when you were talking about Minnesota, you were saying how like they looked good against LAT. They have these wins. Like something we haven't really talked about much is the fact that this is the only matchup that we've already seen so far this CDL season, because LAG and
Okay,
Minnesota
yeah,
played in that first match. I think it was the first match of the season, if I'm not mistaken, and
yeah, I think so.
that was a really exciting matchup. It was 250, 243 hard point that Minnesota wins. LAG wins the first S&D. Minnesota wins a round 5 control. LAG comes back, they win Skyline Hardpoint, and then they go to round 11 on Rewind S&D, and Minnesota ends up winning it. So, like, we have a previous result, and I think that if you're someone that's supporting Minnesota, or you believe that Minnesota is going to win this, that's a good reason why. Like, LAG showed flaws and lost that map, obviously, or those maps and that match in totality, and it was close. It probably will be close again because, again, we've talked about it. These teams seem very close in terms of skill, in terms of possibly potential, and right now, like, they're not much different. Minnesota needs these wins. LAG needs them even more, and I'm really excited about this match. I think, just obviously these teams don't have the star power that Optic and FaZe and C9 do, but I think I'm the most interested because that first match of the season was so exciting, and I kind of want to see it again. I want to see if LAG has figured out some of the things that befell them the first time, if Minnesota has gotten better and been able to kind of create a bigger gap between themselves and LAG. I think that's a really interesting aspect of this match.